Test, test, 1, 2, 3, test. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to today's episode or the last 4 or 5 episodes, you'll know that the audio has been different. It's because we've been live on set in a video production studio. So what happens is I get the SD card after that, and then I come back and edit it. Bear with me for the time being with the audio being slightly different because it is coming from a video production studio. But nevertheless, stay tuned for today's episode. Today, I'm with Jazz Johnson, son of my co-host, Leland Johnson.
How you doing?
This is a special episode of Basketball Life. We're going to be talking to Jazz Johnson. Jazz has been an underdog. He's gone through adversity. We're going to explore his mentality. We're going to discuss his new coach. And then later, we're going to discuss what's going on with today's basketball in Oregon versus when he was in high school and the guys that he grew up following and emulating. So without ado, I want to introduce Jazz Johnson to the Sports Mastery Podcast. We have my co-host, Leland Johnson.
How you doing?
You know, I'm going to get right into it because I know you grew up as an underdog. Mm-hmm. You were labeled the fat kid at 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Everybody will want to guard you because you were considered fat. Yeah. And then later, as you got older, you were labeled as the running back playing point guard. Yeah. And then I know there was a point in time where people would say, he can't pass the eyeball test. Mm-hmm. So you're hearing all these things. I know your story. I know you've been an underdog because you're like 5'9", under 5'10". Yeah. People will say, he can't play at the next level. He's too slow. He needs to do this and that. So talk to me about being an underdog and how did you get through that, or how did that fuel you to get to where you are now?
Honestly, I can say that a lot of it I can attribute to this guy right here, just because a lot of the things you said I didn't hear until I was later on in the road. So a lot of those things he filtered away from me. So he did a really good job of making sure that I didn't hear all those things and I stayed motivated and I just stayed in the gym and just worked. And then as we got to a point where I could understand those type of things, what they were saying, and like the perception of what and why they were saying it, then that's when he started to bring it to my attention, and then that's when I kind of took it upon myself to say, like, I want to change these things. So that's really what it came down to, is just like us working together. I would say he's more like the mental side of it, just keeping me focused on, what was really important, and then obviously I got to do the work, and with his help and all the training that we do, he helped me along with changing my body, and obviously, at one point, proving everybody wrong. So at this point now, like, I lost 30 pounds. I'm 180. I'm the best shape I've ever been. And it's crazy because they still call me a football player that plays basketball to this day. And, I look at it now, I look at it as a compliment because football players are some of the best athletes in the world, and some of them have the best physiques in the world. So I'm not going to be mad at it. So I take it as, motivation, and if I am built like a football player, I'm going to continue to work out and be like a football player because those guys, they're athletic, they're fluid, they're strong. Why wouldn't you want to be like an athlete like them playing basketball?
That's right. That's a good attitude to have, and we've been talking about in prior episodes on having a good attitude. If you haven't heard that, go back and listen to parts 1 and 2, having a positive attitude. One thing you said was key was that your dad, Leland, he did a good job filtering. So Leland, you being his dad and his coach, I hear 2 things. You were filtering, to keep the negativity away, and then it sounds like later you opened the filter up to kind of fuel him when you felt that he was mature enough. Talk to us about your strategies with that.
It's just, the young kids are susceptible to certain things when they hear it, and it affects them.
Susceptible?
Susceptible.
Yeah, I got you.
And yeah, thank you. But they take it, they receive it different. So I knew when to kind of like just kind of like let him have it, let him understand what was out there, let him understand what people was saying. After I groomed him, and after, it was me making sure he understood that it was always competition. It was always someone always looking at you, ready to compete. Like, I had one little thing I used to say to him. I used to say, don't just look in front of you. Don't look right on the side of you, but look behind you also. So you're aware of everything that's going on. You can't just look at the dudes that are in front of you, the dudes that you're competing with at that point in time. There are dudes that are 3-4 years behind you that are watching you, and you got to watch out for them.
That's right.
Because those are the guys who will become they'll have some say so later on in your professional career on if you're ever to be on that level. You know, you'll be competing against each other all the time. And another thing I used to do with him is I would get him out of that year kids competing against other kids at the same age mentality. I always felt like that was a big setup. You know, when you got 6th graders playing against 6th graders, 7th graders playing against 7th graders. You and I grew up when we had to go ball at the park. We had to go play with grown men.
Chain nets, whoever was on the court.
You remember that? You know, I had to ask for winners, and if it was grown men on the court, that I picked 4 grown men, including myself, and I'd understand my weaknesses, their strengths. That stuff's not done anymore. And I would recreate those situations. I remember one time I took him to Irvington Park, and Irvington Park was still kind of fired up at this particular time. And I had him play against some kids. This one kid, do you remember that kid's name?
Skillful David.
Skillful David. Skillful David. Great name. And he was a pretty good kid, too. But he was older than Jazz. I made him go out there and play against him. And Skillful, he tried to put it on him. But he, in that whole day, it was like a challenge. He overcame that challenge. There was another challenge where they played 5-on-5, and I even took it as far as leaving. I left him there by himself, and I left him there by himself because I wanted to see how he would react. Would he look around for me to see if I was sitting there? And when I got back, a part of him, I was like, man, you need to come get your son. So at that point in time, I knew we had kind of like transformed, and everything that we was going to do at that time was going to be simple as long as I taught it to him, because we had the right mentality, or he had the right mentality.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying, ladies and gentlemen, because it looks like, from what I'm hearing, you was preparing him for adversity and how to deal with adversity early on. And I know your freshman year, I think it was your freshman or sophomore year in high school, you had an ankle break.
Yep.
Later, what was it? I think your senior year, you had an ankle break. Your freshman, sophomore year, you lose your coach, one of your high school coaches, your senior year, for whatever reason. And then you get to a point where after 2 years at the University of Portland, you want to transfer. And I know there was adversity going through all of those different things. Talk to the audience about how you would get through these different phases in your life and battle adversity, because a lot of times we're dealing with kids, and we're also dealing with sports parents, that when the kid encounters adversity, the sports parent won't even know how to deal with it, let alone the young athlete. So sometimes a young athlete can be experiencing adversity, or what appears to be adversity, and then they have no one to run to, and then they kind of unravel in certain situations. Either they quit, they bow out, or at the collegiate level, they put on their glasses and just become a student.
Right.
You know, so talk to us about your strategies and the things that obviously your dad taught you in dealing with adversity.
I think dealing with adversity just comes to how much do you love this? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I can honestly say, like, I love this. Like, this basketball thing and working out, whatever, I love it. And that's what kept me through it. And then it helps having the relationship that we have, the fact that, you know, we're father and son, trainer, trainee, but we're also best friends too. So it really comes down to the fact that, you know, we can sit there and have those real conversations that a lot of father and sons don't have. Like, we sit there and have conversations that you would have with your best friend or something like that. You know, so I think the biggest thing is, like I said before, is like I truly love it. And if you really do love it, you're willing to go through anything that you're about to go through in order to get to the end process. So basically, you know, I was talking to my dad about this actually this morning. It's just like you got to kind of roll with the punches. You know what I'm saying? You just got to understand that stuff in life is going to pop up, and you can't let it stop you. And honestly, it just comes down to the fact that you have to love this more than the situations that come across you. So you have to be able to fight through everything you go through in order to get what you want out of this. So honestly, that's what it all comes down to.
And I like what you're saying, because we've been discussing the book The Lens, Travis Doherty, and one of the hidden talents of a student athlete is love for the game. So that means you have to love practice. The games is one thing, but you have to love practice. You got to love the weight room. You got to love your skills training. And some people say they love it, but they don't love all facets. So what's been your experience with other athletes or your son as far as like seeing if he really loves the game, Leland?
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine, Orlando, and he has a young son who's 4 or 5 years old, a pretty good athlete, and he's starting to compete in sports. And I told him, I said, a lot of people don't understand. It's not that complicated. It's those little bitty conversations that you have after basketball games. It's those little bitty conversations you have before basketball games. It's those little bitty conversations you have when you're watching TV and something may come up and you go, hey, Jazz, come here, let me show you this. How many times did I do that?
Still does that to this day. I'm 22 years old. Still, every time I'm home, I'll be in my room and he'll yell my name just to show me something, and we'll talk about it 30, 45 minutes.
And those nuggets add up over time.
Those nuggets add up over time.
So Leland, tell us more about the nuggets that you would give Jazz, like when you would see on television or see during a game, and then you would go to him and say, hey, check this out, and how those nuggets built up over time. You were teaching him how to get through adversity or showing him basic points to the game or life.
But as well as I was teaching him how to get through it, I think I was also letting him know what my mentality was towards it. And whether at the particular time, maybe when we were going through it, he may have thought because of my reaction to it, it was a more dire situation. But afterwards, when we have conversation and I'm able to explain to him, hey, just because I react to it under fire, it doesn't mean it's that serious. You know what I'm saying? This is actually what I mean. And this is because this is what the situation brings about. So this is our normal human reaction, but this is the way I want you to see it. Because it's all about giving him, at a young age, a different perspective from everybody else.
I got you. So it sounds like not to react emotionally in the moment, but learn how to step back when you're going through something. Even though it might be difficult or tough, you can still not react right then, where you can give it some space, as they say.
Allow yourself to learn and allow him to learn from the situation. He said something interesting to me not too long ago. And it had something to do with some of the younger kids I was training. And he was like, they're lucky. And I said, why would you say that? He said, because when you was with me, you was basically, you was, just troubleshooting. And there were different things that I would try. There were different ways I would approach it. Some days, some methods were effective. And some days, some weren't. It was up to me to understand that and me to conversate with him and ask him also, what was this effective? It didn't? How did you feel? Trying to prepare him for the future, I would always tell him things like, there's going to be a situation that comes about or I want the situation to be where I'm coming to you and asking you things.
Yes.
I don't want to be the one that's giving the information. Sometimes I want to receive some of the information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you mean, because the athlete always has needs. So once you cover the general needs of the athlete, every athlete has specialized needs. So you got to figure out, okay, where are we going to go with our training? What's unique to him?
Right.
And if you're a sports parent, you're a strength coach, you're a personal trainer, if you don't know this, that's why I don't believe everybody should be in a blanket program. There has to be more people involved in the traditional strength and conditioning program, because his needs might be different than little Johnny. Little Johnny might need to be squatting, or he might need to be cleaning or doing certain drills on the court.
Right.
You see what I mean? So, I'm never one to promote books. I don't get paid for this. and we've discussed this, the Mamba mentality by Kobe Bryant. And what I really appreciate about his material is he gives you a real insight into his psyche and thought process. I was very impressed because I feel like the book is worth more than it is, and I'm surprised he put the book out. But there was a particular chapter in there, Leland, where he talks about his workouts being biblical. And I remember us training, playing together, playing on 2 different professional indoor football teams together, and how we would work out. And then that little gym over there by Madison High School, we go sit and chop it up in the hot tub.
Right.
But our workouts, we would call them spiritual workouts. So it's the same thing, and I can relate to that. So now I'm in a situation where I'm taking my athletes what I call through deep waters. We're doing a lot of sprint work right now. So I'm building up a base in terms of speed and endurance. So we're running 10 100s. You got a minute rest. If you're a skill athlete with that 30-pound sled, you got to finish that in 16 seconds.
Right.
A 3-minute rest. 6 60s. Call them 10-6 folds. Not 4 folds. Right? So you run the 60s. If you're a skill athlete, you got to finish that in under 9 seconds. You got a 3-minute rest. Then we get to the 40s. You got to finish that 40 in under 6 seconds. Right? It's taxing. If you have to go to the restroom, or if you feel like you have to bow down, you're done. Right. It's okay, you're done. Right. You can't come back in while everybody else is still working. So these workouts are geared to see where your mentality is. Because if you're running this and you telling yourself, oh, this is killing me. Oh, my legs are weak. I'm going to die. I'm not going to make it. That's what's going to happen. And that's that inner talk. And I was just telling my kids the other day, what's your dialogue? Are you saying, I can make this? This is easy. I'm going to complete this workout. I'm getting better every day. And
watch this.
I had a 300-pound lineman. He makes it. I got a corner. He makes it. And I had some other kids, they had to stop. Nothing wrong. So no, let me get to it. Right. So, and that's where I'm leading to, where I want to hear from you as far as what y'all would go through. How would y'all's workouts get spiritual? Because I've been there with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So tell me about that, where certain kids can't make it, and we want to see who can stick and who can't.
No, I want to, no, and we basically talking about the same thing, but I want to ask him this. Do you remember what my reaction was when you broke your ankle? Not the immediate reaction where I went through the get up, get your ass up, because I told him, get up. And then when I seen the ankle do this, I acted just like a little, oh man. I went into a mama mode. You know what I'm saying? But do you remember what I told you when we came home? Do you remember what I said as far as when it was broken, it was in a cast? Do you remember what I said to you as far as the reaction or how we was going to approach it?
It was just along the lines of we're gonna go at it together and we're gonna work through it. It's that simple. I mean, that's all you can do. What are you gonna do? My ankle's broken. What am I gonna be sad about it and mad and stop myself from continuing? Like, it's gonna get better at some point. It's about doing it every day.
Where did y'all go with the workouts after that, as far as the rehab and then getting him healthy?
Well, and that was kind of part. First, the thing I had to do was get him mentally in the right place. And I think this will ring a bell. We've been doing this anyway. Mm-hmm. Remember that? Remember I said that? We've been doing this anyway. What you think the workouts are?
Yeah. The
workouts are to prepare you for if something happens. Now we know how to rehab. We know how to be disciplined. We know how to do this 3 to 4 times a week and rest the other 3 days. You see what I'm saying? So I just took that. I just took it a different perspective again. I just took that, something that we were already doing. We were already laying the basis of discipline. Mm-hmm. We were laying the basis of having a work ethic, order. And he was already confident, and I wasn't confident in him as an athlete. He was confident in me as an instructor. So now it's just it's important at that particular time. It's important for me to now have the necessary people to receive the right type of information to help him with. And luckily for us, he had a doctor. I wish I knew her name. My brother, she was so open on giving us information, completely open. And dealing with different doctors, I found that not a lot of them are like that. And I mean, she was really, she walked, she kind of like was by my side throughout the whole procedure, so I could pick up the phone and call her and say, well, this is the reaction I'm getting. What do you think?
Well, mind you, too, this was happening at Benson High School.
Right.
We didn't have an athletic trainer. So this dude, he was my athletic trainer, my basketball trainer, my strength coach.
Physical therapy.
Everything encompassed in one. And because we didn't have that. And he had to somehow get a certified doctor to give him information in order
the doctor.
Yeah, because he technically doesn't have the the certifications to be a physical therapist and all that stuff, but he did what he had to do in order to get her to give him the information so
That's
he
right.
can go back and learn himself on what to do to make my ankle better. And he did an amazing job because ever since then I haven't had any issues.
Now let me ask you this: so you finally get healthy, and I've seen you with a number of training partners. I can name them. I'm not going to name names, but there's a lot of people that came through them doors that kind of compare themselves to you, think they're as good as you, but then y'all get to certain workouts. Tell us a story about maybe one of those workouts where he'll intentionally see who can handle it and who can't, like the toughest workout where you're like, damn, can I make it? But you made it and you saw other dudes drop off.
I can honestly say that's like our field workouts. We do a lot of resistant band workouts too. That's where me personally, I really see because a lot of my friends come from working out with me. Like I gained a lot of connection on you showing that you have the same work ethic as I do, and you have the mental toughness like I do to do this life thing and figure it out and not just quit.
It is a lifestyle,
and it's really just about dudes just fall off at a certain point. It's those field workouts, and it's just like I pride myself on, because you were talking about those biblical workouts. I wouldn't say it's just one specific workout.
right?
It's more about I can do this stuff that he does, or I can do this hard for a long period of time. I can do this week after week after week after week. Whereas some dudes, they'll give you 2 weeks and they'll go hard for 2 weeks, and you can respect that. But what about after that 2 weeks? Can you do it for a month, 2 months? And honestly, I think me going away to Nevada made me realize how I am mentally, how strong I really am mentally, because now I'm by myself. I don't have him. All I have him is to talk to him on the phone, and it's just not the same. So it's really just about, like, I found it within myself to, I was talking about week after week being able to do that. I'm doing it by myself. And, like, you can try to bring teammates with you, but even when I'm working out with him, you can only drag guys along for so long. So it just gets to a point where I know I do this,
Right,
like this is what I do, and I'm going to continue to do it until I can't do it no more.
That's right. Because the whole thing is when you get them training partners. I remember when we were playing, we would purposely take Mike to deep waters. We would purposely take Anthony Davis to deep waters. We would purposely take Muhammad to deep waters.
I remember let me interrupt you. I remember one day we had a stranger. Remember that guy who walked into the gym with us, and he was like, "Hey man, can I work out with you guys?" And we allowed him to work out with us. And the next day when we came back in, the dude said, "Hey man, you know that dude y'all was with?" We're like, yeah, he ended up calling the ambulance. And yeah, we actually sent him to the hospital. And he didn't know it at the time. But after the workout was over, I guess it started to hit him. But we was in one of those situations where we was taking each other there. So,
And the other time was when Kenny Austin was our agent. He had sent the kid down from Washington State, the receiver. I remember to this day, he worked out with us at Matt Dishman Community Center. And he went, what did he tell Ken? I mean, we when we knew he was coming, we was going to drown him.
We did it, man. We
like
did it,
a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
He did it, man.
Yeah.
And Ken was not that interested as he was, after he found out what his mentality was. But, that's what type of dudes we were, though. We were the type of cats that on our national championship day, I still remember that you know, Freeman, remember my boy Freeman, Freeman woke up like at 7 in the morning, he was up running. That's the same thing we would get up. We was up
Do
working
workouts.
out, you know, workout in
Get the
before.
central nervous system turned on before the game.
Yep.
When everybody else would say, don't do that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
but
Without even knowing that, I do the exact same. Without even knowing you guys did that, or you ever telling that story, I do the exact same thing. And Muss used to be on me about working out and stuff like before games, but it's just
to show you where it's in your DNA, we have a cousin, Bob Brown, that played for the Philadelphia Eagles and played for the Oakland Raiders. And remember Coach Rich that we played for? Richard?
Richard, let him rest in peace. I forget his last name.
Yeah.
Played for the Raiders.
Played for the Raiders.
Oakland Raiders.
He knew my cousin. And he said, man, you know what your cousin used to do? I said, what? He said, your cousin would carry 100-pound dumbbells. And he'd bring them with him on the road. And before every game, he'd get out and he'd start doing his curls and his bench press with his 100-pound dumbbells, man, before every game. And it was like, I just knew then it was like it was in my DNA.
Because sometimes in life you have to do what you have to do to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. Now you know we're starting to get into the fourth quarter. You got a new coach at Nevada.
yeah.
What's his workouts like compared to your dad's workouts?
To be honest, as I'm doing more and more, they're almost exactly like his drills, where it's just like they're more old school, where it's like, you know, you got the cones out and everything's just kind of reliant on the player pushing himself to the limits and being creative and using his mind to create game situations. So, you know, you're doing moves at cones, and then there comes a point where it's what you know, it's like it's all up to you on if you want to get better, you know, because like a lot of now, like new trainers, they're on the court with you, you know, they're like that fake defender, or they're applying pressure to you while you're dribbling, which is forced accountability. But what are those kids going to do without the trainer? You know, like he gives me drills, or like Alfred has drills, and he gives me drills that I can go do in the gym by myself. And it's like I have to hold myself accountable how hard I'm going, and because I won't get better if I'm doing those drills and I'm not going hard.
Right.
You know, and it's the same thing, but with the new style of training, you have to go hard because there's literally someone on the court with you, you know, but you're not always going to have someone with you all the time. You're not going to have your trainer with you. And this is my dad, and I don't have him with me all the time. So you have to be able to figure it out yourself.
I like that. What would you add to that, Leland?
I agree with that. You just, and as a trainer, you know, you always want to give your athlete the ability to create. I used to tell them as a youngster, I used to go, you know, I'm going to have you do some drills. I'm going to have you take you through different drills, but I want you to have the ability to put your own little nuance on it, put your own little creativity on it. Or, you know, or jazz, I'll give you an example. We do a hurdle drill where we're dribbling over 3 hurdles in one stationary situation. We're doing a stationary dribble where we're dribbling over 3 hurdles. Well, he'll do that, and eventually he'll add some degree of difficulty to it. You know what I'm saying?
Intuitive.
And it's intuitive. And I'll look over and I'll see him doing it, and I won't change. I won't ask him to change it. That's his own little thing. That's what he's added. And he's taken drills that I've given him and take it to a whole nother level where, you know, and where it's really pushing him beyond, you know, where I would probably want him to go. You know, so I think you should always, as a trainer, give your athlete the ability to add his own little creativity in what you're doing, because it gives him ownership. And again, it kind of, you guys start working together instead of being on
A hierarchy.
Yeah.
Right. And to add on to that, I think a big thing is like you don't want to get bored with it, you know. So like that's why I try to figure out ways to make things harder, or you know, improve a drill that he gave me or something, because it's easy to get bored. And like I'm saying about the new age trainers, like there's nothing wrong with it by any means. Like it's good stuff to do because you have that person with you. It's kind of game situations because someone is sitting there guarding you or like in your face. But I'm more looking at it as you're by your, like at some point you're going to be alone. You know what I'm saying? Like there's going to be a point where you make it so high, and it may be high school where you're alone, but there's going to be a point where, say I go overseas, I don't have my trainer, you know, and you don't have the access of GAs and managers that you have at universities, or if you play in the NBA, obviously they have trainers and stuff that you work with, but you go overseas or you go to different situations, they don't have the means in order to, you know, make it happen for you, so you have to make it happen for yourself.
True.
I like what you're saying, and we've discussed this, Leland, as far as an athlete has to do the work with their team. Then you might have your strength coach, and a lot of times that strength coach is the skills coach, where you're doing something either in small groups or one-on-one, but at a certain point you have to be able to do it by yourself. Now the reverse to all of this is you got that person who's scared, who don't give it they all with the team, who might be intimidated to kind of work with you. Maybe they don't want to make the investment, so they try to do it all alone. That's not the way to go either, because you're not going to push yourself far. So there's progressions and regressions to what we're talking about when we're talking about getting to the highest level. You have to have a team. You have to have a good coach.
And it's interesting that you say that, because I run into parents who will actually say this. We'll start talking about training, and they'll go, "Oh well, I got a membership at 24 Hour Fitness, and he goes up there and he plays all the time. He's always working on his game." I actually have parents that say that to me, and I go, "So you give your 10-year-old son a ball and expect for him to go up to a court and understand the fundamental functions of dribbling a basketball?"
And what he should be feeling like neurologically.
Or what he should be feeling like neurologically and physiologically, yes. You mean you're going to take a 10-year-old kid and he's just going to instantly, okay, let me make sure my shoulders are properly. And no, he's not going to do that.
They're just going to do what they see on TV.
And they're
Mind you, those dudes are grown men. So
Right.
they're sitting there trying to do what a professional athlete is doing, and how can you emulate that and you don't even have the basic movements or functions to even perform it, you know?
Getting into the fourth quarter, you know, you came up at a time in a cool or really, I would say, dope era as far as competitors and other guards and point guards, where you had a Peyton Pritchard, you had a Deontay Strickland.
Anthony Kadeem.
Yeah.
And, you know, granted, some of those guys, you know, end up falling off, but they're still talented players to this day, like Silas, all of them, still very good players.
How would you compare that generation and the guys you came up emulating to today's generation from a mental standpoint, you know?
So I'm going to go as far as this. I think the biggest difference is honestly social media. Me growing up, social media was obviously there, but it wasn't big. Social media has made the world a lot smaller, and today guys are friends now, you know, like they become friends from social media, and you know, they grow those bonds together, you know, they play AAU together, and there's no longer like that competition of, like, yes, I was cool with all them, but there was enough distance where, you know, I didn't see them every day and I didn't talk to them every day, so there was still that like, you know, that competitiveness that, you know, we're always trying to be better than each other. We still respect each other, we still like each other, but at the end of the day, we're all trying to make it, you know.
Yeah, because it's like on social media, you see them every day. You
Right.
see what they're doing, but you know, back then it wasn't so popular. So you know, when I see him, it's on.
Yeah.
I've heard about him. I've seen a few clips, but I'm waiting to see his ass.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now you see him every day, so that mystique or that challenge is kind of different.
Exactly. And,
You know.
and then, so basically, I think guys today, it's different because I think kind of like my generation per se is kind of like the last of guys who were more consistently that just loved the game. You know, they did it because they genuinely liked playing basketball.
Not to get likes.
Right.
Exactly. And now today, guys are looking for likes. They're looking for clout. You know, they're doing it because girls are interested in their success, or you know, they're trying to get a scholarship, and that's it. But you know, everyone's doing it for like a reason that's like
All the wrong reasons.
yeah, it's kind of like you want something out of this. You know what I'm saying? Like you're doing this to get something out of it. You're not doing it out of pure love. I do this because I love it. I don't expect nothing out of this. But I think if I work hard, I'm gonna get something out of it. But I don't expect anything out of this. But that's why I'm working as hard as I can. So hopefully the opportunities can open up and I can do something to help the people around me. But everyone wants to do it for, you know, their own individual likes and fame today. That's just honestly what I think.
Before we close out, Leland, what would you like to share with the audience?
If it pertains to the last question you just asked,
Or just overall?
When it comes back to it, I think the parents guide where the kids are going to go. In that during that era, those kids were lucky that they had dads that were very informative. Terry Pritchard, Kanan Chapman, Pat Strickland, Richard Bonton, myself, Silas's dad, Tony, all knowledgeable. We all had some form of knowledge of what it would take to get our kids to that next level. And even though that we didn't come together and try to do it as a unit, each one fed off the other. We were close enough where we could see what the next one was doing, and we would try it to see if it would work for us. One day, I had him doing chair shots, you know, working on his jump shot. And I was seeing a video with Kanan's son doing chair shots. Not to say he got that from us, but, you know, it created a discipline. It created a discipline amongst that group. When Peyton did something positive, or when Peyton went out and won a state championship, it made a lot of the other kids hungry. They didn't just lay down and go, oh, Peyton's great. They were like, no, I want to knock him off the pedestal. You know?
And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's just the nature of being competitive. And if you have a problem with that, then sports is the wrong thing for you.
It's not for you.
If you feel like people looking at you like I'm trying to come at you as something bad, then don't play sports, because that's literally what it's all about. You see the other person from across you, and what's the point of playing the sport if you're not trying to be better than the person that's against you?
Here's a perspective that you can that I always look at. When I first started this, okay, I started this in Gladstone, and I ran across a young lady named Lisa who had a nephew named Peyton. Jazz and Peyton played against each other. From that situation, me and his dad got together, and we put him, Jazz, and Anthony, because we ran into Anthony, because Anthony was mulling through a whole bunch of kids.
Anthony actually played against me and Peyton, and we were like second grade or something. That's how we met Anthony. Is me and Peyton were on the same team. We played against Anthony, and Anthony was actually like the best player on his team.
Yeah.
And then he ended up it became us three after that.
And during that time period that we spent together, it was beautiful, because all three of those individuals, me and Terry said would make it, and they made it. They actually made it. And each individual made it, and they're shining right now to this very day. I find it beautiful to see now Anthony and Peyton.
Anthony, what's his last name?
Anthony Mason.
Okay.
Mathis.
Anthony Mathis. I'm sorry. He's at Oregon now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Him and Peyton play at Oregon together.
They're at Oregon together. You know, it's beautiful to see Jazz still having, you know, being able to do what he's doing. It was beautiful to sit back and watch Silas over at Gonzaga. I was glad to see all of that, man, because all those kids grew up with a certain mentality. They had a certain project, and all those kids had parents who went about it a certain way.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to A Basketball Life. I want to thank you for joining us. Today we've talked about overcoming hardship, adversity, being the underdog, the type of mentality that you have to have. You know, Jazz's current coach, how the training is comparable to the way he grew up. And today's Oregon athletes, you know, when you get a chance, go back and listen to this episode more than once.
Sports parents, if you're looking for a program to help develop your student athlete, check out my course, The Edge, showing and helping the student athlete how to take effective action, developing discipline, showing them how to develop a growth mindset and expand their mind in the form of reflective thinking. This is the place you want to be. This is course. I want you to work through this course with your student athlete. It's not for them to go at it alone. This is a gap. This is a way to bridge the gap between the student athlete and sports parent and the student athlete and the coach. Check out my course, The Edge, at sportsmastery.thinkific.com. I'll also have a link in the show notes.